Hello, and welcome to this session of Talking Tech, Women and Girls in ICT. My name is Maeva. I'm a graduate student at the University of Montreal in Canada. And today I am delighted to be discussing tech and tech careers with Maarit Palovirta. Maarit is the Director of Regulatory Affairs at ETNO, the European Telecommunication and Network Operators Association. Talking Tech is a series celebrating women in tech being recorded around the world between Girls in ICT Day 2020 and Girls in ICT Day 2022. Girls in ICT Day is an international day marked on the fourth Thursday of each April. The objective is to help create a global environment that encourages young women to consider studies and careers in the field of information and communication technologies. The Talk in Tech series is brought to you by the International Telecommunication Union, the United Nations International Computing Center, and the Office of the UN Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, and is in support of Equals, the global partnership for gender equality in the digital age. Hi, Maarit, and thank you for joining me today. To kick things off, would you mind introducing yourself briefly to the audience and talking about what your current job is about?
Yes, absolutely. Hello, Maeva, and thanks a lot for the invitation to do this interview today. So my name is Maarit Palovirta, and I'm, as you said, so I work for ETNO. ETNO is the European Telecommunication and Network Operators Association. So we essentially represent and work with the European telecommunications sector, so operators, but also then with some equipment vendors. And as the title implies, so our work mainly focuses on regulatory and policy work. We are based in Brussels, so many of you know, of course, that Brussels is the home also to many of the European institutions. So it's a bit of a policy hub when it comes to policy making in Europe, and also, of course, in the area of digital policy. But apart from that, so I also deal with global internet governance issues, and also some issues that are a bit more technical in by nature, for example, standardization. And with that work, we of course also work with the ITU. And prior to ETNO, so I worked for the Internet Society and also for Cisco Systems for many years. So I've been in the digital domain for quite some time already. And what's been quite exciting and enriching is that, well, throughout all these years and different jobs and different tasks, I've actually managed to develop a kind of a comprehensive vision of the sector, and also I've had the opportunity to explore some of the issues, the policy issue, the technology issues from different angles. And maybe just to add at the end, so so I said already that I'm based in Belgium, Brussels for nearly 20 years, but I'm actually from Finland. So I'm Finnish nationality.
And when and how did you get into technology? Because I know that we both studied in social sciences, so I'm curious to know whether you already had an interest in technology back then.
Well, so as you say, so I was, yes, political sciences, economics student. And in fact, my current professional focus and expertise has been much guided by and developed through the opportunities that came my way as I was starting out my career. So I didn't really actively plan a career in technology, but it rather simply happened like that. And in fact, I was working at the time in one of my very first jobs in a Brussels-based public affairs consultancy. And pretty much by coincidence, I was asked to join their technology practice, which was growing at the time. And this was some 15, 20 years ago. So, you know, technology sector didn't really look the same back then. There was no big tech, there was no data economy. There were no mobile applications, so it wasn't a very trendy thing to do at the time. But nevertheless, I was very interested and let's say intrigued by the sector. So I stayed on and have worked on technology and digital issues ever since.
And what do you like the most about your current job, and maybe about working in the tech sector in general?
Well, I think in every job, actually, to me, the most important part is the people you work with. It's not only the colleagues, but also the different stakeholders, industry peers, policymakers that we work with. And I think technology is a fun thing, and also the job in the regulatory and policy area is a nice thing, is that you work with, well, yes, engineers, technologists, but also with politicians, with policymakers, with NGOs. So I think that technology and the digital sector brings together many different groups. And also the tech world is a very fast-moving environment, as you know. So there are a whole lot of different topics, and some topics are more related to the business. For example, I don't know, telecommunication regulations, and they're mainly kind of business commercial considerations there. But then there are other issues that directly impact all of our lives today, for example, privacy. And I think it's very interesting actually to understand the full digital value chain, and also how the different topics and also the different stakeholders fit in the kind of holistic digital ecosystem, if you like. And I don't know, but I'm still a pro technology individual. We've seen that digital and technology can impact in a positive manner on many things. I mean, for example, now we talk about environment a lot and the green transition. So I think there are very critical and important issues where technology can play a positive role. But of course, we have to be realistic as well. So we shouldn't ignore the potential downsides. And I think that though I'm pro technology, it's also good to also have a bit of a critical look at your job, and also the way that technology and digital sector is developing, so that you, let's say, keep a realistic vision of what's going on.
Yeah, I can really relate to all of that. And what's the lesson that you've learned along the way that you would like to share with us?
Well, I think one, very basic lesson is, and I think I've had to tell myself that, well, throughout my professional career, is to be patient and believe that good things and new opportunities will come as long as, of course, you do the groundwork, so to speak. And also that a little bit of passion and true belief actually, I think, gives you a head start in your efforts. I think many of us early on in our career, but also later on, we have a tendency to rush and try and create a career, or to climb the ladder, if you like. But I do believe that if you do your work and you remain curious and continue learning, and also very importantly, get to know the people in your professional sphere, you will get to places, and there will be new doors that will open. And actually, the bit about the passion that I mentioned, it was one of my first bosses here in Brussels who told me that it's always good to have a little bit of passion in your work, and to also share it and show it openly, because that helps you convince other people, and also you yourself are more motivated. So that can help you get a long way ahead.
And that actually brings me to my next question, which is, what career tips would you give your younger self?
Well, yeah, going back, I mean, I think another classic, I mean, believe in yourself, and then identify those issues that you find challenging and try and work on them. So for example, for me, I was always in the beginning, especially of my career, very nervous to speak up in meetings where there were maybe more senior people present, and perhaps I had a critical point to raise, but I didn't always dare to raise it. So, but I think through practice and being prepared for this type of situations, also simply pushing yourself a little bit, and to get a training, it can help a lot. So really try and proactively develop the points that you need, where you need to develop. And the same goes also on for example, on getting professional recognition. So I think it is often said that especially women are very shy sometimes to ask for promotion or salary raise. And I think that it's rather a question again of practice. So if you feel that you deserve recognition for a job well done, the only way really is to go and ask for it. So it can be uncomfortable, but I think that's, you know, we then have to kind of gather the courage and try and ask for these things, that if we believe that we deserve that. And maybe a third thing just to share is that, well, things don't always go the way you planned. So it is, I think it's good to always dedicate a bit of time, professional time, for networking and in general knowing your industry and environment. So organizations change all the time, and you may have to leave, or you may have to change the task within your organization, or you may want to leave because of some change. So it's much easier to do that if you're a little bit prepared and you have been following the discussions within your industry, and if you already have a network, a professional network, so people who you can call. So those are my kind of top of mind thoughts for that one.
And since this series is about girls and women in technology, do you have some other advice that you would give young women considering a career in the tech sector?
The tech sector can still sound maybe a little bit unappealing to somebody who is not, let's say, naturally attracted by it, and to somebody who is, you know, who hasn't gone through a technical training. But I think it's very important to remember there are lots of different types of jobs and role in the tech and digital sector today. So you can do many things, for example, myself, policy and regulation. So there are many types of different roles that that are part of the sector today. And also, if you have doubts, or if you have questions, or you're interested but not sure, I think it's also good to be just brave and contact people you know in the tech sector. I find that most professionals are very happy to do a bit of informal mentoring and to help young professionals, if they can, with their career plans. So I think a bit of proactiveness is good if you think that tech sector, that working in the tech sector might be something for you.
Thank you so much for sharing all this with us. Are there any questions that you would like to ask me?
Yes, absolutely. It's very interesting to be talking to a young professional, or let's say, I think still a student maybe, but already a young professional as well. So it would be interesting to know, how about you? When did you get into technology?
So I actually started my undergraduate studies with a bachelor's degree in international studies, specializing in peace and security. And in my university, you're allowed to take up to 2 courses that are not part of your program, but that are still credited in whichever program you're in. And this actually allowed me to take a computer science course, the first one, which was a basic introduction to programming. I always liked math, but I had chosen the path of humanities a while back. I had to make a choice because in the school system I was, I mean, it did not allow me to major, for instance, in both philosophy and math. And I ended up really enjoying learning how to program. So after my bachelor's degree, I decided to do a 1-year degree in applied computer science. That's when I started looking for professional experience that combined both my interests in social sciences and computer science. So that's when I did an internship at the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN, which, if some of you don't know, is the organization who manages the domain name system. So when you type something on Google, it translates that into an IP address and takes you to the right website. And currently, so yeah, I'm an intern at the ITU as part of my master's degree in political science. It has worked pretty well for me to combine all these disciplines, but I think that a basic knowledge in computer science is a plus in any field of study, really. Yeah.
Yes, I can certainly agree to that. And what do you like the most, well, about the digital sector and the tech sector?
So it's part of what you were saying, the fact that technology has been rapidly changing our lives for decades now. And the fact that raises a number of societal questions. I've always liked philosophy, history, and mathematics. So I feel like this is the perfect field for me. I like the discussions we're having on technology and ethics, for instance. And the fact that it's evolving exponentially makes it crucial that more people get involved in those discussions, because it's affecting most human lives. And I also know that we need people who can navigate between technical and social. So it also makes me feel like I can be useful in that field. And that's why I think that it's so important to get more people who do not have a technical background involved in the field of, in technology, especially when it comes to technologies that are currently being developed. I like that you can have a really impact on how they will affect us in the future.
Yes, and I can certainly relate to your point about the need of people between the tech sector and the society, because I do think that there's a gap there sometimes that is very obvious in the discussions. Well, finally, it would be interesting to know if you have any messages from your point of view to other young women who are in tech or might be considering a career in tech.
There are a lot of careers in tech that you don't know before you actually start working. Personally, I didn't know what many job titles meant, for instance. So one advice I would give, and it's kind of what you were saying, is to always ask questions, be curious about people's careers, and look for new opportunities, even if at first glance you think they're too different from what you've been studying. I think that most people who have an expertise in a domain would be happy to answer the questions of someone younger but interested in similar topics. And this series, which we are participating in, is proof of it. And for me, it was very liberating to prove to myself that in fact, I could be good in a field that had nothing to do with what I've been studying for years. I think that it's important to be aware that you can succeed in domains you're not familiar with yet, as long as you have an interest in it. And that, again, even if you didn't study in computer science, it doesn't mean you can't make a career in tech. Disciplines are not as compartmentalized in the professional world, and it's more fluid. And every experience you've had makes up your unique set of skills and knowledges that can give you an advantage in some applications that you're filling. So again, I would recommend to always look for and be open to new experiences so that you can learn and meet new people. Personally, since then, I've had this mindset where I'm never ashamed to apply for a position because I feel like they're too competitive or out of my field of study. This, of course, it has to do with self-confidence, but also just keeping in mind that in the long run, you will not remember all the unsuccessful applications you've sent, but you will remember probably forever other opportunities you were able to seize. So a last recommendation I would give is not being afraid if you don't have a defined career path in your mind. Today, I still don't know what my dream job will look like, but I've enjoyed every professional and academic experience up to now. So as long as you enjoy what you're doing and you're open to new experiences, I don't think you should be asking yourself too many questions. Of course, these are tips that I could give to any students regardless of their gender, but they were the most helpful to me, sorry. And it's the advice I would give my younger self if I could.
Yeah, I fully agree with you in sending out applications as well, because if I think back now, and there were periods when I was looking for a job and I was sending out tens and tens of applications, and you get into interviews, you have exchanges with different people. It doesn't work out every time, but I think looking back, it's a great learning opportunity also to learn about different organizations and of course to train yourself as well to be in these situations. So it's definitely, I think, the right attitude. And I also think that if I think about what is my dream job, what is my dream job, I think I've already had many of them. Because actually I always took a job because I truly wanted to. I found it so interesting, and they weren't always the same. So I think it's also an evolving concept, and there are certainly, many things that you want to explore. It might be, related to the time that, your specific time in your life, or a thing that you are interested in at a certain moment in time.
Yeah.
But I think that there can be many dream jobs, and you have good aspects in many jobs, and yeah. also good to change sometimes and not be afraid to change when you start feeling like maybe I'm not learning enough anymore, or I should be looking at other things.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Maarit, for all the insights you've shared with us today. That wraps up our session for Talking Tech, Women and Girls in ICT. I really enjoyed our chat today, and many thanks to our viewers for watching.
Thank you also, and thanks everybody.